Hey, how's it going, everybody? JT here from Ethfinance for number 16 weekly Doots on the EVMavericks Discord and Ethfinance on Reddit. On behalf of the Ethfinance community on Reddit, and thanks to the EVMavericks once again for hosting Happy Hour for this day. Give a thumbs up and smash the bell if you haven't already. Today, we are joined by Gloria Kimbwala from Bittlebox.io. And say hello. Good to have you here.
Yes, hello. Good morning. Good to be here.
I'm like so excited for this episode, and I know people are really going to enjoy your backstory, and your story moving forward is just going to be a real showstopper. And I know you're already one of my favorite guests, and we haven't even started the interview yet. So the weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the week from the contributors in the Ethfinance community on Reddit. This is a read-along reaction series, and if you want to follow along, hit us up at dailydoots.com, and while you're at it, go grab today's POAP. As always, if you know someone who wants a piece of this action and wants to join me on Zoom and do a little chit chat back and forth, we'd love to have them. Send them my way. So let's jump right in. Let's see. I had dailydoots.com all teed up, but then I got away from myself. Let me get back over here. All right. So we're going to go straight down through. Oh, we got an announcement. I got to do this announcement first. Super Fizz created a POAP to celebrate Tricky Troll completing a full year of Daily Doots curation in Ethfinance. This was a pretty monumental achievement. So the Doots, the whole methodology for collecting them is kind of arbitrarily the decision and opinion of his own. Basically, stuff that's considered to be shitpost worthy or highbrow educational gets placed on the Daily Doots each day. And that's a process that I had started and kept up with for several months. And then thank God that Tricky Troll took over. And so there's a POAP celebrating. And that first full year of nonstop sweet Doot action, you can go grab that. Check out at poap.xyz. And so I think there's a little bit of money that'll go to Tricky Troll so he can buy himself a beer and give himself a pat on the back all the way down his area of the world. Let's go right into the morning trinity. The dope show just puts the symbol for Ethereum in there. Vinegar Strokes checking in at $1,938, and Nixora Kish checks in at 0.069 on the ratio. Awesome. So the shit post of the week, because we want to save the best for first. I did not select this, and technically, this wasn't even in the daily. I shared it as a top-level post. This is Gary Gensler being grilled by Mr. McHenry, the chairman is it Congress? I can't remember if he's a congressperson or senator, but Gary just had a lot of non-answers as to whether ETH was a security or a commodity, as we expect he would. So go check that out. It should be on the front page of Ethfinance, or you can follow me on Twitter at ProDJKC. I was having a lot of fun putting that together.
It was so good. I had to sneak it in.
Yeah, that's funny, man. That was just, when I was listening to the hearing, I'm like, it'd be funny if he just had a game show buzzer, because he was the non-answers, just the refusal to freaking say yes or no for 5 minutes. But fortunately, I was able to whittle it down and save you the trouble of actually listening to the mumbo jumbo, because it was a shit show. But anyway, so there's your shit post of the week. Gary, Game Show Gary, as I like to call him. All right, so let's get our haiku. JS Tears checks in. Best roast me session, security, commission, Gensler, obsession. And today in Ethereum, we're going to go down all the way to the bottom. In 2016, CoinDesk interviews leading blockchain VCs. The time for Ethereum investments has come. Slockit reveals full scope of the DAO on DAOhub.org. ETH falters from $8.50 to $8.10, and went a little bit backwards on the ratio. 2017, the SEC starts weighing NYSE Arca's Ethereum ETF proposal. 2018, ETH loses steam at $605.68 on the ratio. In 2019, some dank ETH could still be smelled around $170 or 0.032 on the ratio. 2020, the hacker who stole $25 million from D-Force earlier, man, I haven't heard that name in a long time, returns all the stolen funds. Social payments, Dharma now allows sending DAI to any Twitter user. Is that still live? I don't know. Content creator rewarding platform Scent gets a big overhaul with version 2 with spotting and rewarding. ETH cuts corners at $173. 2021. Hudson Jameson leaves the Ethereum Foundation. That was a worthy headline for sure. He was such an instrumental person getting Ethereum moving in the direction it was. Let's see. Wyoming approves a law recognizing DAOs as a new type of LLC, and that is where HodlerCon formed. That Luau DAO is formed out of Wyoming. Raoul Paul struggles to not sell all my BTC to move my entire core position to ETH. And 2022 on this day, 1 year ago, an arbitrage MEV bundle buys a Moonbird NFT for 44 ETH to resell it for 220 ETH in the same transaction. Ridley Scott is announced to produce Ethereum movie, The Infinite Machine. And let's see, EU officials talk about banning Bitcoin. If Ethereum is able to shift to proof of stake, we could legitimately request the same from BTC. And that is...
Has anyone heard anything more about that Ridley Scott thing? It was so exciting when it happened, and I haven't heard anything else.
That's a good question. Does anybody know? I have.
Yes,
I remember it coming out. It's like, wow, the aliens guy. You know?
I keep getting it mixed up because they're also making a documentary called The Infinite Garden. And it sounds extremely similar.
Wow, that is interesting. Yeah. They should probably collaborate and figure out a way to wrap one into the other or something. I don't know. Hey, Nick, so thanks for joining the Zoom call here. All right. I think we are ready to introduce Gloria Kimbwala. Gloria Kimbwala and I met in Denver at a place I affectionately referred to as the Gitcoin Castle. So Kevin Owocki from Gitcoin, or formerly of Gitcoin, and I think maybe it was the new group Supermodular.xyz, is that correct? So Supermodular.xyz rented what essentially I call it the Owocki Church, not the castle, but it is an old church in Denver, a really sweet Airbnb. And when I found out he was renting that, I reached out to him to see if it would be possible if I could bring my smoker from Kansas City. And I brought my 55-gallon barrel smoker in the back of a Chrysler Town and Country and drove it to Denver, dropped it off at the church, and got started rubbing. I think I rubbed something like 6 pork butts. And in the process of that, Gloria, she was all eyes on this process because Gloria, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you've been around Kansas City barbecue being made in real time. And we started chatting, and I was just blown away at her depth of knowledge in the space. But what really struck me, Gloria, and I really want to start off with this, if you don't mind, is how your family ended up, and I think you said in California, right? So, Gloria, tell us all about the journey of how you came to the United States, and then we'll go on to the next part of your story, which is how you're already like colonizing Mars with your brain power. Go ahead.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for the lovely introduction. Yeah. My name is Gloria Kimbwala, and I work at Supermodular. I've worked with Kevin Owocki for the last 3 years, and I've been with Gitcoin. Previously, I was with Gitcoin before I was at Supermodular, so I was like Gitcoin employee number 8 or 9. But how my family got to California is where the story starts. My whole family comes from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so my 2 older brothers, my all my aunts and uncles, they're all born there. I'm the first one born in the United States. And when we were in the Congo, my father was like kind of like a poet laureate, like a influencer, inspirer, rally up the country, who worked for the dictator Mobutu to gather the people in the country there. And Mobutu, the dictator, wanted a poem that said that he was God reincarnated, which my father did not agree with from belief-wise. And so it put my father and my mother and the two boys on this list to be executed. But my mom's cousin worked in one of the offices that dealt with the executing, and so she told my mother that she needed to get out of the country. And so my family fled from the Congo to, I want to say it was Zimbabwe, and then ended up going to like Mexico, where a church that's here out in Orange County, an old school Lutheran church, actually brought them into the United States. And they were giving a refugee status by President Carter. He like wrote the pardon that gave us refugee status the year before I was born. So that's how my family came to the Congo, but I was born in Orange County. So I always tell my friends that I'm way too African to be considered like American and way too American to be considered African. And I've always had one eye on like what's going on with my cousins in the Congo, with my family in the Congo, and understanding like the impacts that happened there. But then also very aware of like my life in Orange County. And I guess to explain it from like a financial perspective, the Democratic Republic of Congo, the majority of the people live on less than $1 a day. And then when you think about Orange County, if it was its own country, would be the 34th richest country in the world. So just that disparity in like economics is a very interesting way to kind of like navigate spaces, especially cultural spaces. And I see that a lot with like how I have to deal with my cousins, or like just, $50 might be, lunch for me and my friend this afternoon, but it would be a year of at the university for my cousins who want to study science, and seeing all of the struggles or lack thereof that happens. Let's see. So through my journey, like I grew up here, I had a really great education. I went into computers, and I went through computers the non-traditional route, which means I joined local meetups and went to hackathons and like just met people with interesting technology that ways. And eventually I went to Square to work with how you can hire people like directly from their open source by going to hackathons. And so I was going to a hackathon every weekend. So going to about 40 to 50 hackathons a year, and hiring anywhere up to 100 to 200 new grads and interns, and managing their program throughout Square, and kind of connecting with all the teams there. So that was my early introduction to fintech. And I saw a lot of the barriers into moving money while I was at Square. And I thought, well, who else is overcoming some of these barriers in a peer-to-peer way? And that's how I got involved with cryptocurrencies. I had like a maternity leave, and I was like trying to go down a rabbit hole of understanding how people can build on top of cryptocurrencies. And at first I tried Bitcoin, but I wasn't understanding how to build on top of Bitcoin. This was in like 2016. And so the next place to look was the Ethereum, or like the Ethereum network. And the way that I got introduced into Ethereum was I would just watch the core developers call and take notes. And then I would kind of take notes. And if someone said something interesting, I would kind of reach out to them directly and ask for more or get resources. And the community was much smaller then, but it was a lot more tight knit. So I started to do that, then ended up going to DevCon and continued meeting people. I met Kevin there, and eventually later I came to work for him doing hackathons for Getcoin as well as Littlebox. And through Getcoin, I was able to figure out what a spin-out was, what it's like to launch a token, how it is to launch a DAO, all of that type of aspects of it. But I also got to run Shelling Point. I got to run all of the virtual and in-person workshops for all of our teams during hackathons, and got to be like pretty involved within the ecosystem as a whole. And now I just got back from Zuzalu, so we're there trying to deal with like network states, which is great. And my current project that I have, as well as BiddleBox on the side, is Refi DRC, which is now a local node for the Refi DAO movement, where we're trying to connect a lot of the DRC movement in a better, more impactful, like regenerative economic environment there. And one of the projects on the Refi DRC is to kind of align with EQX Biome, who is currently putting a bid on some of the Congo basin rainforest that's up for bid, in order to use the current plots that are available. They're going to try to use it for regenerative purposes and try to take it out of the hands of oil companies. So I guess that's my spiel in a little bit.
That's really something. So for those of you that are watching the live stream, your main job right now is Biddlebox.io. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
So sum up that part one more time. So you're basically you're basically a think tank that helps organize hackathons. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I organize all the virtual and in-person events. So at BiddleBox or at Supermodular in general, if you've gone to like Shelling Point, so we had a Shelling Point in Denver, in Bogota, in Amsterdam, and I think in Denver again too, and some of the pop-ups. And those were I was part of the organizing team for those Shelling Points in partnership with GetCoin. And then I deal with any of the virtual or in-live events. So if you're a hacker, I partner with the sponsors in putting on the hackathons and organizing all of their workshops. So if you have participated in any of our hackathons, you've probably seen me in the workshops helping to facilitate that and helping the builders get connected to the sponsors whenever they need additional resources, if they need payouts that are incorrectly happening, things of that nature. I'm there for the builders. So I mostly have the builder side of the builder relations.
So you're making a kind of a playground for developers to compete and be able to push the ball forward on innovation. I mean, this is intensely cool stuff, and to organize all that and when you were working for Square doing some of these types of same activities, but the difference, I think, when you start working around Kevin Owocki is that like shoes are optional in the office. Am I right?
That is definitely a part of it. And I think the other side is like in Square, you want, the builders to come work for Square. And now in this ecosystem, you want the builders to be able to build what they want to build and work for themselves and have that type of sovereignty. So I try to think that I help builders be able to do that.
And then the Refi DRC, is that right? The Democratic Republic of Congo? Okay.
Correct.
And so this is a regenerative thing. I'm just recapturing what you said, where did you say $400 million worth of investment into purchasing a huge plot of land and using it maybe for tourism instead of, logging industry or poachers. Is that correct?
Exactly. So there's like 80, I can't remember if it's 80 million hectares, but there's a group, the Democratic government has opened up like 30 plots of land for people to bid on to have ownership for it. But originally they only opened those bids up to oil companies and mining companies. And so what we're trying to do is match with this organization, EQX Biome, and put on a bid to be used for regenerative purposes. So if the bids were accepted, the land would go back to the local indigenous people, and they would be the land stewardess of the land, but it would be for regenerative purposes. So some of the partners are like the Virunga National Park that are the keepers of the silverback gorillas. that would be one of the regenerative purposes. So having some of the national parks actually be owned there, and showing the Democratic Republic of Congo that you can use the land for regenerative purposes, that they don't have to be used for degenerative purposes such as oil and mining.
And I know you said that it's still so. All the Mavericks need to listen to this. This is not even you don't even have a website yet, but you're getting there. And have you made a Twitter yet? And the reason why I say this is I want all the Mavericks to jump in on this, because I think it's a project worthy of following. The ecotourism, certainly at some point in time, I'm sure many of us would like to visit a place like that and kind of take it in. Do you have a Twitter set up yet, or are we still working on that also?
Yeah, no, I just set up the Twitter. So the Twitter is REFIDRC, so REFIDRC. You can go to that and follow us. We'll be making announcements there. And then we're part of the current Get Coin beta round. And so you'll be able to take a look at us there. And we'll continue to get information up. Right now, we have a pretty close network that's working to facilitate some of the bids that are happening, and working with the Congo as well. A lot of us came from Redemption DAO, which kind of spun out when we originally thought that the bids were going to be closed and weren't happening. And so we have to realign and get things going again now, which is fantastic, because now we have this opportunity to save the rainforest, which is great.
And for those of you who may be watching on YouTube, you can come to the Discord, get in the public voice channel, and I dropped a link to the Twitter handle in the chat within the public voice channel. And I want to go on the record. I'm your first follower, and I'm the most dedicated follower that you have right now and in the future. I think this is fantastic, and I think this would be a really cool thing, maybe that the Mavericks could help support with some public goods funding, even in our own small way. Maybe we adopt a tree snake or something. I mean, I don't know. We'll figure it out. The work that you're doing is just tremendous, and I'm so glad that you're able to hang out with us today. Before we go on, is there anything else you want to mention? And then I'll open it up to the room if anybody has questions for Gloria.
Yeah, no, I'm a pretty public person, so you can always reach out to me at Gloria or G Kimbwala on Twitter, or at Gloria at supermodular.xyz if ever you want me to go even deeper, or even hit me up on Telegram at G Kimbwala. I'm pretty public and pretty welcoming too, and I love all feedback, so happy to answer any questions or provide any feedback into any scenarios.
And I have your Twitter page up, so viewers at home can look at your profile. Who's in the background? The women in your banner photo.
Yeah, I mean, aside from trying to save the rainforest, one of the things I'm super passionate about is women in tech, specifically women in engineering. And so that picture in the background is the women in engineering team that we created at Square. And one of the things that we used to do at Square with women in engineering is a process called Code Camp, where we helped women, just get their fitting within the technical spaces, provide them mentors, gave them insight into different tech companies, and then created a cohort that supported them throughout their careers. And one benefit that I look at these women in engineering cohorts that came from Code Camp is right now the majority are now senior engineering managers, which is great that they had that support from the time that they were in college all the way up to their current careers right now. So I hope to do the same in the Ethereum ecosystem and get more women at least on a protocol development and help them have an ecosystem as well. But a lot of this takes time. Yeah,
they don't look very degen in this photo that I'm seeing. They don't have any really gaudy designs and like unicorns and stuff. So we got to get them converted over, get them on our side. All right. Does anybody on the in the voice channel have any questions for Gloria before we move on?
No questions, but I'm just going to say it's really cool that you started getting involved through the All Core Devs Call. I feel like that's really rare that people get involved in crypto in such like a clean, developer oriented way, because so many people have to wade through absolute horse crap to get through, like, to the meat of crypto.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits from starting at that point too was just I knew everyone in their faces and like their what they were working on, and so I could go directly to them if I had questions, which was great. So it was kind of being like taught the ropes from the original OGs, which was fantastic learning environment. And I think that if I was to do it again, I would really encourage people to do it, to go through it that way. The other side of it was like when I started, you would earn ETH from participating in hackathons, which was great for me because my previous relationship, I didn't have autonomy in my finances. And so I was not ever allowed to like buy crypto, but I could earn as much crypto as I can. So I really tried to support other people who are trying to get into this whole crypto space by earning it itself.
I'm glad to hear that word previous there.
Exactly.
Very good. Anybody else? I think we're ready. T-Word said he's got to hop on a flight. Are you still with us, or did they take you back in the TSA back room and snap a rubber glove on? And
No, I'm here.
all right, let's rock and roll.
All right, yeah. Our very own Nixo Orkish celebrates Benjamin Chadoff's great work to save over 2,000 compromised validators.
Don't know if anyone's mentioned this yet, but CLWP, also known as EIP 4736, included 2,133 potentially or definitely compromised validators who were racing to set their withdrawal address before a hacker could. Of those 2,133 in the set, they were all able to set their address to all of them were able to set their address to one controlled by the rightful owner. 100% success rate, not a single one to a hacker. Benjamin Chodroff and Jim McDonald, I should have omitted that, was the author and did a seriously amazing job after realizing that his own seed for his validators were compromised and, instead of giving up and leaving the space, found a way to save not just his own but thousands of others. Seriously amazing job. Great. That's a great post, Nixo.
Yeah, I spoke to Benjamin afterwards because I would really like for these folks to reach out to me with their stories about how they knew that how they knew or suspected their seeds were compromised. And I wanted to hear Ben's story about how his was compromised. And it is pretty insane the lengths that somebody went to get his seed. And he had pretty good OPSEC, but like that contrasted with a couple weeks ago, I was speaking to somebody who has a validator, is trying to exit a validator, and it turns out he had his seed phrase on his Gmail. And
oh my gosh.
Like that didn't get stolen, and something with really good OPSEC did get stolen. It's just so different. And so I do want to, I want those people to reach out to me so that we could, yeah, it's wild. When I heard that person had his seed on his Gmail, I was like, exit now.
If only we had some sort of an interview live stream program to talk to those people.
Yeah, right. I think a lot of them though are anonymous and don't want. So what I'm trying to do is collect those stories anonymously, because those are people who have already been screwed over by a lack of anonymity or by some mistake, and so they're not going to want to come be public about their face. So I'm trying to put them together anonymously.
I've been hacked twice and SIM swapped twice. I can't get enough of your love, and we need to. I'm like Charlie Brown, man.
Yeah, your story is crazy too. It's pretty crazy how some people have terrible OPSEC, never get hacked. Some people have really good OPSEC and just are like absolute targets.
Yeah, well, shit happens. That's all I can say. And I, not to victim blame or anything, but I was not good with OPSEC early on, and I learned. But then, like, it's like once they get a hold of your phone, like for instance, this latest Apple thing. Have you seen this new thing where if they get a hold of your phone and they watch you put in your PIN, and if they can unlock your phone and they can get to your recovery seed deep in the settings menus, yes, you lose your entire Apple account. There is a guy right now that's driving to Cupertino, whatever, California, to go to their offices in person to prove that he's who he says he is, so he can get his entire Apple account back because he has thousands of photos of his kids and stuff on there. And
Oh my God.
and the hacker took the private key. Apparently, all of you iPhone users need to find that story. Okay, that's a major problem. So, like I said, if you're like unlocking your phone, just think about all the cameras that are everywhere. And if somebody gets a hold of your phone and they know how to get into your phone and they can get to your settings, they can get to, there's something called like a private key in there that they can export.
It's really, this is part of the reason why centralization is so dangerous, is because we basically have two choices of operating systems on cell phone right now. We can use iOS or we can use Android, and the industries that the companies that control those industries have made those choices the only choices for us. And there are other choices, but if you make those choices, you make life really hard for yourself. And that is absolutely the intention of that design. And having that design puts us all at risk. Like every bank I've ever talked to, if I talk to them on the phone, they ask me for an uncomfortable amount of information over the phone. And it's just, I want to tell the representative, you asking me for my phone number, my old addresses, my social security number, my email, just over the phone like this is insane that I have to give this to you to be able to function in society. Like right now I have somebody trying to break into my Venmo because they know my phone number, and Venmo won't let me change my phone number to anything else. And so I just have to wait for somebody to break into my Venmo.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. So JT, can I make a statement about the future of OPSEC and that sort of, those sort of tokens, even when you're talking to the bank and they're asking you for personal information, that sort of thing?
Well, of course.
Do it.
So some of the really good banks, right, they started doing this sort of voice authentication, right, where they would ask you for a recording of your voice, and then they would play it back and they would match it. Well, now with this, advances in AI, what do they need? 3 seconds of your voice? Essentially now it doesn't matter. Now they get your PIN code, or they know your date of birth or your social, and all of that advanced quote unquote security just went the way of the buffalo. And so back to centralization being the issue, blockchain can be a huge aid in that, crypto and blockchain. And it may be the only defense against that sort of AI long term.
Yeah, ever since I kind of found out how advanced AI was getting towards the end of last year, I knew that the beginning of 2023 and the end of 2023 are going to look drastically different. I mean, this is it in a nutshell, 100%. We've got some serious dilemmas in terms of security now that AI is there. I mean, I think I mentioned on the last live stream the kidnapper that faked with AI the sound and of the daughter's voice and making an appeal for ransom over the phone. And
they were from Phoenix here. I read it, and I'm in Phoenix, and I was like, great, that's what we're going to be in the news for.
Well, let her go.
That's not even.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Here's what's crazy, though, right? Is the example of, somebody calls my wife, with an AI voice and says, hey, I can't remember my social security number. Can you go look it up? And my wife gives this AI my social, and then they call the bank with that. That's where it's really scary.
Yeah.
That scam isn't a new scam. My grandmother used to tell me about getting calls from my cousin, and it sounded like him, but she would ask him questions and then sort of hang up on him and be like, if I was less savvy, that would have gotten me. I would have sent money down to this person who said he was in jail in Mexico, who said he's my grandson.
I'm the only known case of somebody getting kidnapped and then they just return them on their own. Like, never mind. Let's
Keep him.
T word. You ready? We'll move on to the next one here.
Yeah, Demetrius and Jeff Bezos discuss EIP 4844/dank sharding.
Imagine you go to the apples and oranges store because you need some oranges, but the store owner is quirky and has a rule that goes like this. This store will only sell 1,000 total items per day. Whether that's one apple and 999 oranges or 900 apples and 100 oranges or a perfect split, I don't care. Once I sold my 1,000th item, I'm done for the day. Also, this store's apples are very good. People drive from all over the place to buy them. So naturally, since supply is low and demand is high, so the cost of apples go up and the store owner makes a killing selling them. Oranges, on the other hand, aren't as popular. On average, the store owner sells about 980 apples and 20 oranges every day. You personally don't really care that much about the apples. You want to buy oranges. But due to the store's weird rule, you still have to outbid people looking to buy apples. Oranges should be cheap because they are plentiful and in low demand, but every orange you buy is an apple someone else can't buy. After the store sold 999 items that day, why would he sell you an orange for $1 when someone's willing to buy an apple for $10? You'll have to offer at least $10 to get the orange you want. This is really dumb. You think to yourself. You talk to the store owner and make him come to his senses, and he agrees to change his stupid rule. Now he'll sell at most 1,000 apples per day and at most 100 oranges per day. So now that the two supply-demand markets are separated, an apple can cost $10 and the orange could cost $1, and everybody's happy. You get cheap oranges and the store owner gets more money than the previous system when $10 was the cost of an item and he sold 1,000. Back in Ethereum land, the apple represents the execution, the gas that affects state, compute stuff in the EVM, etc. And oranges represent data, the gas that stores stuff in the chain's history. Rollups do their execution off-chain, so what they need most from layer 1 is data. Today, the cheapest solution is using call data at 16 gas per byte. But if everyone's fighting to do EVM stuff, the cost of that 16 gas per bytes goes up as well because there's only so much gas in each block. This really shouldn't be the case since data is a different resource from execution. So what EIP 4844 does is separate those two resources into two distinct markets. The gas market, as we know it today, stays the same, and there's a new, quote, data gas, end quote, resource with its own pricing that happens separately. Rollups will be happy because now they get to commit their batches on-chain in these nifty new things called blobs. And when demand for blobs is low, blobs will be cheap, even if there's a huge NFT drop going on that brings gas to 500 Gwei. On a technical level, it does other cool things in preparation for full dank sharding later on, which will allow a significant increase in the size of blobs so that it becomes even cheaper for rollups to commit data to blobs. But even without dank sharding, just splitting the markets will help drastically lower fees on rollups, which will be nice. And Jeff Bezos goes on with more proto-dank sharding information. There's a thread as well, so I'm not going to read this, but quite a few bullet points. That is one hell of an analogy, huh? Anybody else?
That is the best. That's
go
the best
ahead, Nick.
explanation. That's the best explanation of blobs and dank sharding that I have, the proto dank sharding that I have read so far, hands down.
agreed. I was like, I get it. I actually get it.
Right?
I love it. That was clean.
Because, like, a lot of times when you're dealing with gas, you're kind of just doing what somebody told you or you read, or, it's kind of like you're just kind of adventuring into it for the first time. And now I'm like, oh, the store has the oranges. Really appreciate this post from him.
Nice job, Demetrius. Demetrius has been around for quite a long time. I love how Jeff Bezos spells their name with a G, Geoff. All right, let's rock and roll down the list.
Yeah, Ender 985 shares some NFT drama that reminds us about the importance of immutability.
Meanwhile, in post-Chappella NFT land, the whole point of crypto is trustless and code is law. As a consequence, NFTs are immutable. Well, it turns out that sometimes they are not. Truth Labs, the org behind Goblin Town profile pictures NFTs, suddenly changed the JPEGs of their they misspelled here, of all their NFT collections to a middle finger with more middle fingers with the text F royalties, F supporting builders and creatives. Flipping is the heart of what makes Web3 special. Honor the flipper, F the community, long live the slow rug. I'm gonna click on this so we can see what it looks like. But Goblin Town, I don't know. It looks like they did it just for a second. It looks like all of the other ones are back. Well, this move is part of their migration to new contracts, probably to enforce royalties on chain. As you know, the Blur versus OpenSea feud caused a race to the bottom of off-chain royalties. Truth Lab still had access to the contracts, able to change metadata of their NFT collections, effectively giving them the power to change the JPEG that the NFT represents. This took many holders by surprise, since they thought their NFTs were immutable. Well, now they need to trust that Truth Labs will change their JPEGs back. There is a lesson to be learned here. Even if a Web3 participant understands the underlying technology and the principles of trustlessness and immutability on which crypto is founded, they can still be caught in a trap. Smart contracts are law, but sometimes this law is not what we think it is. That is a freaking brilliant quote. I love it.
Yeah, great quote, and also just like a great Goblin Town prank. Like, they're still, even though they're kind of out of the narrative, they're still chugging along with their little troublemaking schemes.
Yeah, there's still way too much trust me, bro, in crypto. That's for sure.
Most of.
Anybody else want to add in on that, or we're going to run down the list? All right, very good. Let's hit it.
All right. Don't Waver explains the recent Supreme Court ruling for Product Dude.
Any legal people care to give an opinion on what today's ruling means for the SEC? And then there's a link to the New York Times. It was the Supreme Court endorses streamlined challenges to agency power. Agency power. Okay. And then don't waver. It means that if someone is being charged by the SEC and that person claims that the SEC is acting unconstitutionally, that person doesn't have to wait until the SEC is done with the enforcement action to appeal in court. Administrative groups such as the SEC are part of the executive branch of the government, but they have a sort of judicial power in enforcing the regulations that they were formed to enforce. So previously, you would have to wait until they were done with their investigation and enforcement action before you could appeal to a court. However, if you are arguing that the SEC doesn't have constitutional authority to enforce whatsoever, they're trying to do to you. Oh, sorry. If you're arguing that the SEC doesn't have constitutional authority to enforce whatever it is they're trying to do to you, it's kind of silly to have to wait for them to finish the whole investigation and enforcement action before you can object and appeal. For the SEC, this means that if, for example, Coinbase was charged in an enforcement action by the SEC and Coinbase wanted to argue that the SEC doesn't have the power to regulate crypto under their grant of power, it could immediately appeal to a federal or state court and have this argument ruled on. This would save a ton of time and money if the court finds that the SEC doesn't have power or doesn't have that power. That's interesting. Okay, don't waver. Great job summarizing that. It's agency. So it's Supreme Court endorses streamlined challenges to the agency power that it has. Okay, very good. Awesome. That makes sense. Like, I mean, it's kind of like saying you could be charged with a crime. You have to serve your entire sentence before you can appeal your case, you know? So that is based, it's the way I read it, is that you can go ahead and appeal right away, especially if you think they don't have constitutional authority to do what they're doing in the first place. Interesting. Good stuff. Anybody want to chime in on that? All righty. Interweaver has a great idea. I'm sorry, I just jumped the gun. T-Word, how much time you got before you start flapping your arms?
I've got a couple more. I can get down to wolf barking probably.
Okay.
But yeah, for now, Interweaver has a great idea.
So there's this idea I've been wanting to try for a while now. You guys know how Ethernodes is notoriously bad at showing how many actual execution nodes there are. And so we don't have any real sense of how many there might be. I even see some discussion farther down the daily today on that subject. I think we here in Ethfinance ETHstaker might be uniquely well placed to answer that question. How many nodes are there on Ethereum? Basically, a bunch of us who run nodes, including execution clients, would go and look up our node by IP address or public key on ethernodes.org. Then we'd each just reply to the comment thread, whatever, with a simple yes or no, depending on whether Ethernodes knew about our node. With a big enough sample size, like dozens or ideally a few hundred plus, we'd start to get a pretty clear picture of how many actual nodes there are out there. For example, Ethernodes claims there are 7,500 nodes on a particular day. When 100 of us check our nodes that day, only 25% show up on Ethernodes. The conclusion? There are actually 30,000 nodes, give or take, some error bar, that I'm sure the stats majors here could figure out, but not me. Thoughts? Yeah, we got a pretty good sample size between both of these subs. I think that's worthy of a sticky, is just see how much, just do a little sample of our little corner of the universe and see what it comes up. Because, I mean, the node number is kind of, it's really informational, I think, when you're trying to lay out facts, in an argument or whatever people do on crypto Twitter these days.
Yeah, I think it'd be a fun little exercise. Also, it kind of like once we were done, just having that data like accumulated through our community would just be like, what else can we do, right? Like, let's shine our magnifying glass on the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to plug in Ethernodes into the sub somehow, like a check-in. I don't know. That's an interesting thought. Interweaver's longtime contributor. I always love their posts. Good stuff. Nice selection, T-Word. T-Word, by the way, selects a lot of these weekly Doots, if not all of them. All right. I guess we'll move down the list.
Yeah, moving on. Buy ETH or Die discusses an anti-crypto podcast, which reminds us that the most bullish thing for Ethereum is yet to be understood.
User buy ETH or die, DAI. That's genius. Anyone watch Bill Maher? One of his guests wrote an anti-crypto book, and I just found the arguments in their interview funny. I think the interview just furthers my view that Ethereum needs to disassociate itself from the word cryptocurrency. I would much rather see the word crypto network, as it conveys that currency is not a central theme. But anyways, I summarized the interview because I think this is a great summary of the mainstream opinion on crypto. First bullet, cryptocurrencies aren't currencies and never will be defined as a store of value, medium of exchange, or unit of account. Second bullet, centralized exchanges should be regulated like banks. Third bullet, if money is trust, then the term trustless money is nonsense. It's like saying a government less government or religion less religion. Bullet 4, cryptocurrencies are not money. They are investments for higher returns, which makes them a security. Next bullet. The only people that use them are criminals and gamblers because it's inherently a zero-sum game because cryptocurrencies don't do anything. Usually a security is a share of a stock. But with crypto, there's no product, no good or service, which is why it's a zero-sum game where for someone to win, someone has to lose. Next point. Crypto is a Ponzi scheme because 1 million people can't access their money out of FTX. Next point. If you lose your PIN number in crypto, then you're just effed. And there's nothing you can do, which is why people use exchanges so that someone else is responsible for your stuff. Next bullet. Most centralized exchanges are fake and eventually collapse. Next bullet. NFTs are a Ponzi scam. Right-click, save JPEGs, wash trading, and good luck selling your Bored Ape. And the final point, the amount of energy for blockchains is ridiculous. In 2021, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies mined a ton of energy. These are almost verbatim the arguments thrown around. The first thing I noticed is that if you replace the word cryptocurrency with Bitcoin, it makes a lot more sense. The arguments are very surface level and lack a ton of nuance because in the mainstream's eyes, cryptocurrencies are all like Bitcoin. I think the old saying around here absolutely applies. The most bullish thing about Ethereum is to be understood. Great post.
Unique takeaway from this. Anybody in finance can write a book. This guy was probably laying in bed and was like, yeah, cryptocurrency sucks because of this and this and this. All of this is extremely uneducated. These are all uneducated bullet points. PIN number in cryptocurrency? That's insane. If this guy can write and sell a book and get invited on Bill Maher, anybody in Ethfinance who understands Ethereum can write a book. So go be a journalist, go write some articles, go write some books because anything could be better than this.
Well said. All right. Rock and roll.
All right. Wolf Parking covers the large institutions moving into the space.
Now that withdrawals are enabled with the successful upgrade of Chapella, I'm keeping an eye out for institutions and big movers. Already this year, we've seen Fidelity and BlackRock pouring funds into blockchain. NASDAQ and their digital assets business is expected to start providing customer crypto custody by the end of June after receiving approval from the New York Department of Financial Services. Much like Fidelity, the platform will function similar to an exchange with liquidity and execution services. Just last year, Bank of America reported a turning signal for wealthy investors away from the stock market and into crypto, real estate, and private equity. The quote from that is 75% of young investors say it's impossible to achieve above average returns solely with traditional stocks and bonds. He goes on, combine this sentiment with the economic slowdown and credit crisis, crypto investments are in better position this year. Also, and not the news I expected to see gain traction and excitement, but the Bank of America is reporting some interesting drivers of recent digital asset adoption from gold. Tokenized gold gold passed $1 billion in value last month under the market cap pump of stablecoins PAXG and Tether Gold XAUT. The quote, tokenized gold provides exposure to physical gold, 24/7 real-time settlement, no management fees, and no storage or insurance costs. The low minimum investment increases accessibility and fractionalization, enables the transfer of physical gold ownership and value that was not previously possible. We could do all with some peace of mind and stability after all the black swans we've experienced last year. Here's to hoping that these large institutions don't exert regulatory and market forces in the wrong direction and F it up for the rest of us. Great post, Wolf Parking. All right, moving on down. I think we got about 4 more here. T-word. I think he's gone. He's out. Gen366 digs up something from YouTube covering AI and Ethereum. Oh boy. So there's a YouTube link here. This is a gem of a channel. What channel is it? He talks about autonomous. Let me click on it real quick. See where we're at.
Now I will talk about.
Okay, there's a timestamp here. I won't play the video because I don't have it set up to be able to come through on Discord. It would come through on YouTube, but I don't want to stop the Discord conversation for that. This is a gem of a channel. He talks about autonomous AI and how Ethereum might play an important role in the future AI economy. Really good. This is the part where he speaks about the AI economy and Ethereum. Quote, now I will discuss the integration of these AI models into the legacy financial system and Ethereum. These models can function as a central brain and connect to other neural networks, AI systems, and handcrafted intelligence systems like Wolfram Alpha. As the AI assistant interacts with apps and handles tasks for you, there will be a need for it to manage money. In the first iteration, AI will interact with apps to book flights, for example, and users will confirm and approve transactions. As the AI becomes more effective and trusted, users will want it to handle more tasks autonomously, including financial transactions. There will be pressure to integrate AI into financial systems, but this may create friction in the traditional financial system. These autonomous AI entities might face difficulties meeting regulatory expectations because the legacy system is governed by regulations designed for humans. Additionally, the traditional financial system is not well suited for global transactions between AI agents due to regional differences. Crypto systems like Ethereum, on the other hand, are well suited for autonomous systems. Ethereum was designed with the idea that autonomous agents might conduct much of the financial activity in the future. It is permissionless, global, transparent, and digital native, making it an ideal platform for AI agents to manage accounts and interact with smart contracts. Though most economic activity still occurs in the traditional financial system, friction in that system may push AI agents toward crypto systems like Ethereum. Smart contracts on Ethereum can be used to coordinate AI agents, creating a seamless environment for AI-driven financial transactions. Great post. Yeah, so I want to bookmark that YouTube video to watch that later on. That sounds interesting. I feel like it's a whole lot of just very common sense stuff that's going to unfold as AI. AI is going to be like, why aren't you guys using crypto, bro? AI is going to be like, yo, tap into that stuff. That's the good stuff over there. Interesting. Anybody want a color commentary on that? All right. Barbecue caramel brulee. What is this username? Barbecue Caramel Brulee goes over the Gensler grilling in detail. Holy crap. Patrick McHenry did a fantastic job with Gensler today. I believe he really forced the issue on Ethereum as a commodity and hope it leads to regulatory movement, but maybe we in the U.S. shouldn't hold our collective breaths just yet with our painfully slow government and sigh. Anyway, great job, Representative McHenry. I'm not going to read through this because I think most everybody, and if you haven't had a chance to watch the full clip, not the meme, not the game show version that I made, but actually watch the full clip of the hearing and just listen to the non-answers that Gensler was just avoiding the simple, basic question that was asked of him like 5 times, and he just never could say yes or no to whether or not Ethereum was a commodity or not. Anybody else want to chime in on that?
The one thing I'll point out further down in the post is a mention of Coin Center, and Barbecue Caramel Brulee wrote, the Coin Center works to educate policymakers, and they're doing a lot of specific advocacy for kind of advocating for the kind of things we're looking for from our politicians. So that's something to look into if you're looking for a place to donate some money or time, or learn a little more about what you can do to get involved.
Austin, thanks so much for shining a light on Coin Center. That is absolutely a great project to help support. So yeah, went back. It says Coin Center works to educate policymakers. Recent efforts to educate involved the terrible Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act, the Restrict Act, and the Treasury's DeFi Risk Assessment. I hope to find out more about specific advocacy that they are doing. So yes, thanks for shining a light on that, Austin. Good stuff. Let's see. Gonna move on down. Revolutionary Soil 11 has some wallet tips for everyone. These are all good. Keep your funds separated if you have a lot of money. There have been plenty of cases people accidentally signing fraudulent transactions, even with a hardware wallet because their PC was compromised. Don't mix your 100 ETH retirement money with your wallet containing dick butt NFTs. Also, if you interact with dodgy or untested contracts, use a separate wallet for that too. Number 2, for best security, use a multi-sig wallet, social recovery, or hardware wallet. Number 3, not all wallets are the same. Do your research. The more funds you have, the more careful you should be in your choices. Number 4, no hardware wallets are not unhackable. And let me back up. No, hardware wallets are not unhackable, as some seem to think. There can be and have been plenty of bugs found in the code. The same goes for any wallet. There's no perfect security. Know the risks. Number 5, revoke permissions. I'll say it again. Revoke permissions. Number 6, hackers aside, another maybe even more common way people lose funds is by their own error. Make sure you have the keys recovery phrase properly backed up. There are a lot of different ways you could do that. Spend some time reading up on it. Number 7, if you're relatively new to all of this, Andreas Antonopoulos has some great videos on wallet security on YouTube. He mostly talks about Bitcoin, but it's the same for beginners. It's important to know the difference. Here, good stuff. I'm going to keep rocking and rolling. User Too Nice, the number 4, all this. Too Nice for all this. Shared a template for you to contact your U.S. representatives. Here's a draft letter to the president/legislator/lawmakers from the perspective of a Web3 developer. 1 sentence was generated via ChatGPT. The rest are my own words. My letter will be different as I am not a dev, though I do feel like this affects my career too. Feel free to use and customize. Apologies, but I'm super tired and barely proofread it. And they have a really good letter in a template. And you know that I think it was Representative Tom Emmer was saying definitely do your writing, because they may not read everything, but they definitely kind of compartmentalized into different areas of where the letter seems to be headed. So there's going to be more and more crypto letter piled up on a desk, and at a certain point they have to address it. So definitely keep writing. And I believe Coinbase I think has like crypto friendly politicians listed. I don't have the link for it. I'm not going to go into because we're getting short on time and I want to keep moving. But yes, no matter local, state, or federal, try to get some words out there. All right. And let's see. Astafari 12 reminds us that we aren't against regulation itself. Here. I can already tell this is good. Long time OG, Astafari 12. Reading many people here the last days that claim that we're just greedy and only care about pumping our bags. We aren't against regulation. We are against bad regulation. That and he put it in bold, and it's so true. We are not against regulation. We're against bad regulation. If the SEC got its way, I predict that ETH would be a security that retail can't touch directly, only indirectly from various bank products. Private stablecoins might be banned. Private wallets, or what they call them, unhosted wallets, wild wallets, or dark wallets, will be banned. DeFi itself likely banned unless accessed from a bank that charges a fee for, quote, our own protection. No other country is stuck on the question whether ETH is a security or a commodity. Crypto regulation in the UK and EU is not perfect, but we realize that crypto is here to stay and put out regulation, guidelines, and not just 55 litigations. I was positively surprised by how many DeFi actions my Nordic tax authority has provided guidelines on this year. ETH staking, for example, capital gains, not ordinary income, lending, LPing, etc. Meanwhile, the U.S. IRS hasn't even spoken about ETH staking. Most people will likely class it as ordinary income because that is safer than to classify as the lower taxed capital gains. SEC's actions are embarrassing. Even Hester, Gensler's colleague, says so. The IRS is embarrassing. The political dick swinging between agencies, embarrassing. Republicans versus Democrats as well, and things like that make me lose faith in society and the democratic process more than any crypto scammer ever did. Scammers do it for the money. Above, I think, is done for the same or even worse reasons. Great job. And I will be the first to say, as a moderator, we, especially on the day of the Gensler hearing, and of course I'm no help putting out a shit post about it, but that we had way too much political stuff in the daily that day. It was a very heated day. I mean, I think everybody understands the ethos of Ethfinance is that we try to avoid politics, but it's hardly avoidable when it's centrally talking about crypto. The no politics rule is more applicable to like Orange Man bad type of comments, or Biden's asleep at the wheel because of immigration. You know, stuff that's political, that's inflammatory, that has nothing to do with crypto. But this was very much central to talking about Ethereum, so it's kind of hard to nitpick in between what to remove and what to keep as a moderator. So we kind of took a mulligan on the daily that day and just really hope for the best. I mean, there's obviously, I felt like there were some new faces in there that came from our buttcoin, to be quite honest. But there's a lot of people that also, they're just very convicted of their feelings about their side of the fence, and crypto is not at the top of their list. So, you know, it's just kind of messy, and it's hard to like look at everything totally black and white in terms of the no politics rule. I didn't know if anybody else had any comments on that or in general before we wrap up today. All right. Well, I've got a personal announcement, and it doesn't come easy for me to say this, but I'm no longer working for Grid Plus. I am in the market. If you know of anybody that is interested in a talking head role, somebody that wants to do kind of what we're doing right here, interested in helping out with marketing. I like reading out blog posts, taking taking scripts from a team and converting it into visual assets across social media. And I like doing product photography and videography, and I'm ready for the next step in my life. I've had a few interviews so far, and I'm going to land on my feet and roll soon, and I hope that I can do it in Web3. And if you know of anybody, let me know. That's all I got about that. Maybe I'll help out Gloria with the Congo project, huh? Gloria, thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and all the best to you with Bittlebox and the project that you have going on. Please stop by anytime. We'd love to have you come on, even if you just want to hang out on Zoom with us or on the stage and give us updates. We very much welcome any updates that you have personally. Drop them in the daily. I'm a big fan, and I'm very excited for your future and the future of all the stuff that you're working on. It's exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the time and space. I just dropped the link to our Twitter right there. And I'm a big, a believer of show no shill. So feel free to keep me accountable during this time, and I will come through and drop some deets as often as I can, and hopefully continue to join y'all at least for your daily Doots. And I appreciate you giving me the space.
Well, when we met in Denver and I was kind of describing this and describing the Reddit community, I mean, we're kind of a hidden haven in a way, and it's just it's really nice. The daily threads every day, there's always something to read, something new. Kind of takes things that are aggregated from Twitter, but then you get a really good long form reply, and you can develop relationships. You can recognize people that have made the Doots list and how many times they've been on it. It's kind of a unique way of using Reddit along with Discord at the same time to come up with kind of a different way of talking.
Yeah, the Reddit community for me was like a godsend when I was learning. Again, I was thrown in from a developer's perspective, and when I started to learn Ethereum, it's not like we could go to Stack Overflow and get some answers. So it was really just learning peer-to-peer from Reddit communities. So kudos to people who are upvoting and responding and providing resources. I think that is just the ethos of growing things organically, and the value is exponential for those who are seeking answers.
Well, hats off to you. Great job. And stop by anytime. We'd love to have you again. Well, that's it. Lady and gents, stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn right here in the voice chat. It's a fun place to let loose when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of the Ethfinance and EVMavericks DAO, my name is JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.